The Giants would have been smart to just wave the white flag last night, even though the game was close. Didn't we know? We knew what the end result was going to be. The question is, how do we get there? And for a while, they made us think, the Giants did, that they actually could compete with the Dallas Cowboys. But eventually, the clearly better team emerges. It was a blowout week 1 in Dallas when the Cowboys beat the Giants, and now they get together again to cap week 9, 37-18 win by the Cowboys. 6 straight over the Giants. There was a time where the Giants used to give the Cowboys fits. It's been at least 3 years ago. The Cowboys moved to 5-3. They have a half-game lead over the Eagles, and the Cowboys are 4-0 in the division, including the head-to-head victory against the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Cowboys firmly in charge, and they did sputter early on, but I got to give them credit for not falling apart, right? They're coming off of their bye week, a little bit rusty. They have the early turnover on the throw by Dak Prescott that was picked off by Antoine Bethea. It just felt like it took some time for it to get going. But they didn't panic. They didn't give up. They just pushed through it, Peter. And the next thing you know, it's a blowout.
Mike, what really occurred to me watching this game is how helpless the New York Giants are on offense. And what a helpless feeling it has to be for that organization after spending the most money in NFL history for a left tackle in Nate Solder, drafting a guard, Will Hernandez, in the second round, and then trading your best pass rusher, Olivier Vernon, for a very good guard in Kevin Zeitler. So basically, you have spent major resources on 60% of your offensive line, and that's what they've got to show for it. The line is awful. It's just awful. And so at one point in the game, I think Joe Tessitore on ESPN said something like, well, Saquon Barkley, I forget what words he used, but it was something like, well, Saquon Barkley's got to get with it. Well, every time Saquon Barkley touched the ball, he ran into a wall. And, the Giants were helpless at the goal line. It's got to be an incredibly disheartening feel because the players who Dave Gettleman has put a lot of stock in to come in and rebuild a huge need position group are bad right now anyway. Last night are playing poorly.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And Saquon Barkley had 28 rushing yards. That was the lowest total of his career for any game that he didn't exit early due to injury. If you're watching on NBCSN, there's one that popped, but those were few and far between for Saquon Barkley last night. When the offensive line is terrible, yes, we do notice that the offensive line is playing poorly, but so much more of the blame goes to the quarterback. Like, what's wrong with the quarterback? What's wrong with the running back? Well, what's wrong with them is they don't have time to do anything. They don't have an opening. Exactly. When the offensive line plays well, we ignore them and we give all the praise to the quarterback, the running back, the receivers, and the tight end. But when the offensive line just can't block and you can't do anything. And, Peter, I saw it coming after that interception to start the game. When the Giants can't punch it in for a touchdown, it's going to be a long night. That's how you jump on a team early. That's how you set the tone early. That was a huge win for the Cowboys to hold the Giants to a field goal because, okay, that's a little hiccup. We're still the Cowboys. They're still the Giants. Now let's go prove it, even though it still did take a while for that to go. And it was 12-3 at one point in the second quarter. But there was just always this feeling it was inevitable that the Cowboys were going to do what they needed to do. Ezekiel Elliott, 139 yards rushing, a season high for him. Dak Prescott, another good night, shaking off that interception, playing well enough to remind everyone that, number one, he doesn't have a contract, and number two, with each passing week, it's going to cost the Cowboys more to get him signed. So here they are. It was a rough start to the season. They had the 3-game losing streak, but they seem like they're the team that we expected them to be from week 1.
Yeah, I'd feel better about the Cowboys if they weren't so sloppy. And that was not a clean performance by the Dallas Cowboys last night. And again, every team has some hiccups in the course of a game. But in my opinion, the Cowboys got 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns because the Giants totally fell asleep in the secondary. and 1 touchdown because of Giant sloppiness. I have no idea what you say about the Dallas Cowboys after that game last night. They won a game they should win. And Dak Prescott played well, but he had his moments also. So I think for the Cowboys, it's one of those survive and advance kind of games, Mike.
Yeah, when you come out of that game with a 37-18 final score, even though it was closer than that, if it's possible, but it was closer than that and it was in doubt for a while, you take that one and you say, hey, we got the win. Now let's get ready for Minnesota on Sunday Night Football. And the black cat that we talked about on the little 2-minute TV only stub at the top of the show, the black cat actually was good luck for the Cowboys, because before the cat, the Giants were winning 9-3. Dak Prescott had 84 passing yards and an interception. After the cat, Dallas outscored New York 34-9, 173 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks for Dak Prescott. So the cat was a Cowboys fan. The cat put the kibosh on the Giants. And by the way, there was an update from MetLife Stadium. For those wondering about the status of our furry friend at tonight's game, the black cat ran off the field and disappeared under a seating section. Once we locate and safely capture the cat, we will take it to a veteran for examination. They ain't going to catch the cat. I think the cat likes living in MetLife Stadium. The cat looks well fed, Peter. The cat's finding leftover nachos and hot dogs and hamburgers and whatever else is laying around. That cat isn't leaving.
Mike, here's what it's like and what it must be like to be a New York Giants fan right now. You get in your car at the end of that game. You go for the ride home. You're a little dispirited because you've just been embarrassed again. And you do have the cat. I mean, the biggest bright spot on the evening for you is, hey, honey, did you see that cat? How about that cat? That was unbelievable. And so that, to me, is the sad part right now for the New York Football Giants. And I did like this, by the way.
Yeah, we got the next-gen stats for the cat. 14.3 miles per hour top speed and untouched all night long because nobody wanted to get close to that cat because God knows what kind of diseases that cat is carrying or what the cat would do. Do you remember the old clip? I think it was a baseball game. Guy picked it up and the cat bit the guy. So you just don't want to mess with the cat.
Yeah.
You never know what a cat's going to do.
Groundskeeper, yeah.
Let's flip this to the Giants and about where the Giants are right now as a franchise. At 2-7, they have the Jets this week. They've got some tough games coming up later in the season. 2 points I want to raise with you. Let me start with Pat Shurmur. Year 2, you've mentioned this before as it relates to Ben McAdoo. In hindsight, Ben McAdoo did pretty well with the Giants. Better record than Pat Shurmur through a season and a half when you compare the two guys. Is Pat Shurmur in any kind of trouble or should he be in any kind of trouble, even though it's only the second year of his time as head coach of the team?
Mike, I think he'll probably be back for year 3 because I think Dave Gettleman, John Mara, Steve Tisch, they understand that he came in to a really bad situation. But I think somehow, some way, what they have to do, what's really incumbent on them right now, they're never going to be anything offensively until they finish the construction of the line. And that may or may not include Nate Solder because, he just has not had a good year. And then I think after that, I think the most important thing, look, they scotch tape a good pass rush, a decent pass rush together at times this year with a guy they got off the street basically in Marcus Golden, formerly of the Cardinals. But they have got to address that. In my opinion, you're really paying the price. And look, I'm not saying that Daniel Jones isn't a good quarterback for the long haul, but right now you're paying the price with basically not picking Josh Allen in the draft by prioritizing Daniel Jones at 6 over the pass rusher. And now you look and see how well Josh Allen is playing in Jacksonville. He and Bosa are probably neck and neck for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Those are the two things. But, Mike, there's one other point I would make about the Giants long term, and that is I went to the Ravens game on Sunday night, Ravens-Patriots, and I looked down and I saw how re-energized this franchise is with Lamar Jackson and how Eric DaCosta and John Harbaugh and the people who run the Baltimore Ravens basically have made this franchise a continuum. Excuse me. And they basically have not gone into any sort of rebuilding phase at all. And the reason is because they were unemotional about their quarterback. And they said, Joe Flacco's had a couple of bad years in a row. We got to look to move on. And I think the Giants being so faithful for so long while they weren't winning with Eli Manning is really hurting them right now because they didn't get started on a rebuild until it was too late.
And that leads to my next question, Peter, because with the Giants having a game this weekend against the Jets, then they're bye, then at the Bears, home game December 1 against the Packers, and then a trip to Philadelphia week 14. The last 3 games, Dolphins at home, at Washington, and the Eagles to wrap up the season. At what point do we begin to start hearing from the media, from the fans, maybe from within the organization, that to properly send Eli Manning off into the sunset, we need to put him back on the field for 1 or 2 or 3 games, especially since 2 of those last 3 games are home games that you'd like people to show up for. And maybe they'll show up for the Eli Manning farewell since the team is otherwise giving them no reason to show up.
I mean, I don't know what good that would do other than for the 900th time to let the fans and the Giants alumni say how much they love Eli Manning. We know that. I mean, this is a free. I mean, Mike, if that happens, I'll just shrug my shoulders. And, you know, if it's not the best thing for the New York Giants in 2020, then I wouldn't do it. And look, it may be that Daniel Jones, has something wrong with him and could use a week off and whatever, and that's fine. But otherwise, if that happens, I just think it's another example of how the Giants prioritize emotion over football.
Well, that's what's gotten them in this problem, and you're absolutely right. The Giants waited too long to pull the Band-Aid off, and now they have, and they see this. They see what's under that Band-Aid. It's got a long way to go before it gets to where they need to be.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.